The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson. And Jeff, are you excited that this is the last show?
I mean, yeah. I am excited that it's the last show. Not
because you have to see me every week,
because
right?
I don't have to see you every week.
Yeah.
Greg and I had a little domestic on the way out to Hershey, and we I don't know if we're gonna be friends. I don't know if WarUp is gonna continue on because
I mean, Jeff will ignore me all summer anyway, so don't worry, folks. By the time December rolls around, we'll be fine, I'm sure, because he'll have forgotten about it.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. I probably won't call you over the summer, so at least we need the summer off though in order for our relationship to continue into next season.
Yeah, and you know what? It was all over just debates about who's going to be right here in states, and I think we got some mixed results.
That was not it. It was because you were annoying me.
I mean, who shows up an hour late to pick somebody up?
I had things to do. I had rankings to do. I had so many things to do before, so you could just wait.
So it's okay to just tell somebody, hey, you know what, I'll get you at 1, and then pick them up at 2. Have somebody come in from...
This is going to be a terrible show. I have a feeling.
Let's not bring our drama to the folks listening in. How about that?
How about we just break down the brackets and then
I think that's what they like about us, right?
What?
Or 106 pounds. We're going to start it off in AA, 106 pounds. The WPIAL had Chase Brandenburg of Carlinton, as well as Laurel's Colin Bartley, but no WPIAL medalist at 106. Good story, though, for Devin Jackson, right?
Yeah, really excited about Devin Jackson. We saw him at the Surge, and he's able to take 4th. So I know a lot of people were excited to see him do well. 113 pounds. Joey Fisher from South Park makes it to the finals, looked dominant in doing so, but then ran into a buzzsaw in Gary Steen, a guy who he has struggled with in the past and unable to overcome it. Did get to overtime again, just like he did a year ago, but just falls short of a state title. Yeah, and he was very close. I mean, there was multiple times in that finals match against Gary that I thought, man, he's right there with him. And we knew that was going to be the case. They went to tiebreaker last year. This time, Gary was able to get a takedown in sudden victory to get the title, his second in 3 years. So, but Joey can't be upset with the way he wrestled. He left it all on the mat.
120 pounds, Ryan Michaels of Elizabeth Forward. He's able to get to the finals. Last year, he fell just short in the semis. He had a strong match against Chiletsos to get to that final, but then he falls short to a returning state champ, Sheldon Seymour. First period, it looked like, boy, Michaels is going to pull this off, but Seymour just came alive in the second.
Yeah, and I would say Ryan had a great couple matches before the finals. As you mentioned, he beat Mikey Myers, he pinned him, and then he pinned Cole Bayless, who had upset Cole Bisco from Southern Columbia, a state runner-up from last year. And then he beats Kletos from Notre Dame Green Pond in a very tight match, 8-6. I thought that was a good match for him because, Kletos is a guy who a lot of people expected to be in the finals. I think a lot of people expected him to give Seymour a run, but, Seymour just showed how dominant he is. I mean, he's a 2-time state champ now, so looking forward to seeing him.
126 pounds, Tyler Simmerman of Derry. He finishes in 6th place. Solid bracket, right? You have Crookham and Arrington, both returning state champions. You have Levi Haynes, a returning state runner-up. And then you have David Evans from Tunkhannock, who's a solid wrestler as well. But Simmerman, I'm sure, wanted to be a little bit higher on the podium.
And Dave Evans really took it to him. He beat him by major 17-8 in the quarterfinal round. Probably one of the more biggest surprises. And, we got to see David Evans at the Surge, and I was very impressed with him there. But I just kind of struggled with, all right, how much of a good schedule is Tunkhannock going to wrestle, and how many real competitive matches is he going to be in. But he came out firing on all cylinders, beating Ty Simmerman. He ends up dropping down and taking 4th place. Simmerman actually only lost to Jackson Arrington 1-0 in the Conci semifinal, so that was a really good match for him. And he does drop a 9-4 match to Noah Frack, so definitely not a performance that I think he wanted to have, but I do believe
obviously he's young, so he has a chance to come back as a senior and potentially win it.
132 pounds, Ian Oswald of Burrell. He finishes in second place, and he was a guy, he had some big wins. Gets the big win over Adam Jacob, big win over Anthony Glassell to get to the finals, and just the way he had been wrestling lately, I thought he might be able to pull off that upset over Brock McMillan, and he came close to doing it.
Yeah, I had the same feeling you did going into the finals. I thought, man, he may win this thing. He looked really good against Anthony Glassell, a guy we saw in the Surge finals. He's 35-1 on the year, and Ian, he looked really good against him. I thought if he's going to win it, this is the time. And of course, he and Brock McMillan go into tiebreakers, and that was a really tight match too. That could have went either way, I thought, and I know he was pretty upset with the end result.
He's going to have a chance to come back next year, and we'll talk a little bit about the all-time wins list in the WPIAL, where Garrett Ninehouse set the mark here this year with 181 wins. Oswald's going to get a chance to beat that next year.
Yeah, potentially he could, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to 82 and AAA, but he has a chance.
138 pounds for the WPIAL, Kenny Dushek of Freedom. What a tournament for him. He finishes in third place. He dropped a 14-7 decision to Jacob Jones of Saucon Valley in the round of 16, and then he battled all the way back as he was able to pick up 5 total wins to get third place. Great performance.
Probably one of the most impressive performances of the entire AA tournament was Kenny Dushek. He was 4th in the region, 3rd in the state. And this bracket was it was loaded, right? It was loaded. Caden Cassidy, Kenny Kaiser. But as you mentioned, Jacob Jones, a guy who's a freshman, he got off to a big lead on Kenny, and he wasn't able to come back. But look at what he was able to do in the wrestlebacks. He beat Blake Showers, who's a returning state medalist. He beat Zach Holland. And then in the third place match, he beat Patrick DeMarc from Trinity, who had just beat Zach Whitmer. So it's insane for me to see, but man, Kenny Dushek had a great tournament.
And not to mention he beats Clayton Royer in the blood round to get a medal, a guy who had beat him last week.
In the consolation finals, yeah. So, that just shows you how good he was in Hershey.
145 pounds of WPIAL did not have a wrestler in this weight, but one thing... I think one of the bigger upsets in the semifinals was Gavin D'Amato knocking off Eric Gibson, who ended up getting injured and not wrestling again.
Yeah, D'Amato was a big time surprise here, and he Gage McClanahan from Baltimore area was able to outlast him 1-0 in finals.
152 pounds, AJ Corrado of Burrell. He finishes in second place, and Shane Kemper of Burgestown finishing in sixth place.
AJ Corrado, much like Ian Oswald at 132 pounds, he gets to the finals in impressive fashion. He beats Ben Halbert from Palisades, then beats Malachi Duval from Penns Valley, and then he comes back for a Southwest Regional Finals rematch with Caleb Dowling. And he just came up short, right? He was close, but Dowling just seemed to have his number.
As far as Corrado, he wrestled strong against Dowling. He had a great tournament overall. He had some tough matchups, Ben Halbert, Malachi Duval, and getting those wins and then battling it tough with Dowling. I'm excited to see what he's going to come back with next year as a senior.
And another guy who really impressed me, another junior, was Shane Kemper from Burgestown. He was able to, after getting beat by Wes Barnes 8-1, who's a freshman, he was able to bounce back, and he had some pretty good wins in order to get there. He did have a forfeit over Sully Allen, who's a returning state medalist, but he beat Owen Jefferson, lost to Wesley Barnes again, and he does get a... I do think he wrestled really well. He was fortunate to have that forfeit, but I still think he wrestled pretty tough.
160 pounds. Thane Lawrence of Fraser finishes in second place. The much-anticipated match between he and Andrew Cerniglia of Notre Dame GP. He lost 11-8. He went down big. I believe it was 8-2 at the end of the first period, and he battled back. I got to tell you, though, this is probably one of the worst officiating I've seen.
The whole tournament was pretty bad. This was kind of like the cherry on top for the poor officiating in Hershey. Now, I saw some really good officiating, but it's like a service at a restaurant. What do you remember more, the good service or the bad service? And normally it's a bad service. And same with reffing. We remember the bad moments a lot more than we remember the good moments. But this one was particularly stuck out because, Thane, we interviewed Thane and Andrew, both of them, after 160 pounds, and they both had a lot of mutual respect for each other. Cerniglia said, I came out too strong, I came out too hot, I kind of just came out like a ball of fire and then kind of broke down. Thane says, I shouldn't have gotten just destroyed on my feet. I should have not waited to the third period to really start scoring points. And, the pinning combination, whether he was about to get turned or whether the pin was developing, you don't call a stalemate there. You do not. That's a cardinal sin. You don't call a stalemate on a pinning combination. Now, would he have turned him over? I don't know. But you took the opportunity away from him to potentially get the back points and potentially win the match. So, the whole booing thing really upset me. I thought,
You don't boo the kid.
Andrew Siniglia is a great kid, and no one know. I mean, people don't know him. They just see, he's at Notre Dame Green Pond. He transferred from Nazareth. He's one of those private school kids. And, wrestling fans really – I actually was very disappointed with a lot of wrestling fans this weekend because I heard some just atrocious things coming out of their mouths and very uneducated things coming out of their mouths. But to boo Andrew Siniglia, whether you're booing the ref, you're booing the situation or not, it's stupid and it's childish. Andrew Siniglia is a guy who's going to Navy. He's going to, represent the USA in the Navy, serve our country, and all he did was go out there and compete. It's not his fault that was called a stalemate. You know what I'm saying? It's stupid.
You never boo the kid. I think that's, at the end of the day, when you can boo the situation of the cradle or the stalemate, because that's booing the call. That's not booing the kid.
Right.
But you don't, when he's up there getting his gold medal, you don't boo him.
Right, on the podium, right. And it's just stupid. Like, I understand you want to boo the ref. If you want to boo the coach, I mean, that's he's more of an adult anyway, so like I guess that's okay. I still don't understand the booing on the podium. That really ticked me off. I understand people are upset, but Siniglia did nothing wrong other than wrestle really hard for 2.5 minutes, and then Thane Lawrence wrestled very hard for like 2.5 minutes. So it's really stupid to me. And I like both kids. I like both of those guys. Both of them have a lot of respect in my eyes. Both of them were very humble afterwards. Siniglia and Thane both kind of looked at each other like, hey, man, it is what it is. We wrestled hard, and Thane wasn't upset at all. So it shows a lot about Thane, because if I'm Thane,
I'd be furious.
I'm pretty furious, right? I'm pretty upset. But he was fine. He was very that shows he has more maturity than most of the people in the stands. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that, he had a lot more maturity than adults with children in the stands. So that shows something. And yeah, PA wrestling fans need to look in the mirror real hard.
To go back to the referee point, and we'll get into some of the questionable calls, as we talk about some of the brackets, but it was telling to me when I found out 28 referees at the state tournament, 20 of those referees were making their first appearance in the Giant Center. I get you want to get new blood in there. You don't want to have the same 28 referees coming year after year after year, because if you do that, you're never going to get new referees in. So you got to get some new ones in. But 20 of the 28, this is not the time to have that many new referees going to the first time in the Giant Center.
Yeah, I mean, and some of those new referees were really good. I know several of them personally, and I thought they did really well. But we have wrestlers qualify for the state tournament. We don't have refs qualify for the state tournament to ref. And someone will say, "Oh yeah, they do." No, they don't. They don't. They go to a convention. They have to ref a certain number, and then they end up showing up. Why not have the same ref every year if they're good?
Well, I think getting a new blood in, like you put in maybe 4 or 5 new ones, as far as like giving them a chance to get in the Giants. Exactly. I'm not saying just because. I'm saying that if they're good, they, like you said, they qualify, or however you want to do it. But you don't put 20 of the 28 having the first time being the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL doesn't say, hey, we should just let the Detroit Lions into the Super Bowl because, they haven't been there a really long time and we need some new blood in there. No, that's not how it works. So, I mean, I talked with some folks from Jersey, and again, I don't have a lot of good things to say about Jersey, but they do it right when it comes to wrestling. My gosh, they are so much better than us in the way that they are organized and structured. They have referees that are constantly being evaluated. They have numbers on their back. It's an anonymous thing where someone's going around clandestine and taking reviews of all the referees. They have the numbers. I mean, we need something because this is year in and year out. But we're going down a pretty far rabbit hole here, Greg. So let's stick with the schedule.
Well, when you look at Thane Lawrence, in addition to that cradle call where he got the stalemate, Was it 2 at the end of the second period?
I can't tell. I don't know. I didn't go back and watch it. From my angle, it wasn't, but I mean, I haven't gone back and watched it, so that's just one, again, of several calls.
Yeah, that, and then the stalling towards the end. Certainly probably should have been hit at least one more time, maybe 2, before the match ended, but that doesn't make the difference in the score. What does is that cradle, which was ended up being canceled out by the stalemate call. 170 pounds for the WPIAL, Trent Schulteis of Freedom. He finishes in 4th place.
Yeah, and Schulteis had that tough match with Stoltzfus in the with Arciola from Saucon Valley in the semifinals, and Arciola really took it to him, beat him 11-4. I was very impressed with Matt and how he was able to compete. I thought Stoltzfus and he would put on a pretty good match, and then he falls to Caleb Krebs from Montoursville in the 3rd place match, getting pinned. So probably not the way he wanted to finish, but I would say considering how the year went for him, I would be pretty happy with that.
182 pounds, the only WPIAL wrestler to win gold, Austin Wally of Elwood City. He made the move from 195 down to 182, and it was worth it by getting a state title.
Yeah, I mean, he wrestled really well. He got a bunch of decisions. He beat Jacob Fees from Line Mountain 5-2. Then Andrew Scherer from Penns Valley, he beat him 5-3. And then in the finals, Dylan Bennett, who was undefeated coming into this match, he beat him 6-5. So one of the more open weight classes, right? This was the one where we said, Austin Wally's a favorite by virtue of the fact he's a returning state medalist, but there was a lot of guys here I thought could potentially win this. So really good performance by him.
Ricky Feroci of Burrell finishes in 5th place. Patrick Cutchumber of Quaker Valley finishes in 7th place. Feroci and Cutchumber wrestled in the 4th round of consolations. Feroci defeats Cutchumber 3-2 to separate those two guys. But I thought overall, I think Cutchumber probably wanted to be a little bit higher on the podium, but he's got a couple more years left to go to try to finish higher. Feroci, a solid finish to his senior year.
I was very impressed with Ricky Feroci beating Cameron Wisner 4-3, and then battling back, as you said, beating Cutchumber, a guy who finished 2nd in the Southwest region. So that was a really good performance by him. And as you mentioned, Cutchumber, he takes 7th, which he finished on a strong note, but I'm sure he'll be back.
Speaking of our state champion, Austin Wally, he's kind enough to join us now on the phone. Austin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on winning a state championship. How does it feel to win state gold?
Feels great. Feels awesome.
Well, talk a little bit about leading up to the state tournament. You had been wrestling 195 all year round, and decided, I'm going to go ahead and move down to 182. First off, was the cut hard, and was this what the goal was coming into the start of the season to this point?
The first time I'd make 182 was a little tough, but after that, my body adjusted pretty well. And yeah, the state title was the goal, playing the whole year.
When you went into the state championships, you medaled there a year before. Were there any kind of nerves when you stepped onto the mat in Hershey?
I mean, I always get a little nervous before I wrestle, but nothing. I wasn't too nervous. So.
And Austin, you look at your path, and you had a couple close decisions. You beat Jacob Feast 5-2, Scherer from Penns Valley 5-3, and then in finals, that tight match with Dylan Bennett 6-5. How did you feel you performed in those tight bouts?
I think I wrestled fairly smart, but I didn't open up as much as I would have liked to and really score the points. But all in all, I got the job done, so I'm pretty happy about that.
And talk about your incoming class of freshmen at Bucknell. You got 3 guys that win championships, you, Curtis Phipps, and Dorian Crosby. That's got to be pretty cool.
It's awesome. I mean, I can't wait to get up there. We were just talking about that when we were up there and after those guys won. So it's going to be really
talk
fun.
About your selection to the WPIAL team at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. Obviously, Garrett Ninehouse is a guy who pound for pound may be one of the best in the state of Pennsylvania, but you get to compete for the team WPIAL against Maryland. Are you excited about that?
Absolutely. Coming from Pittsburgh, I went to that match a couple of times and can't wait to finally compete in it.
And just kind of closing, you become the first state champion from Elwood City. You cement your name in history. That's got to feel pretty cool knowing that you've done that.
It feels really cool. And hopefully I'm not the last. Hopefully we get someone in the near future to win a state title.
Has your state title championship really sparked a lot more interest in wrestling out that way?
I hope so.
Well, we look forward to seeing that grow, and best of luck as you head off to Bucknell. And again, congratulations on your state championship.
Well, thank you.
Yep. Congratulations, Austin.
Thank you.
Thanks to Austin Wally for joining us on the phone. Let's move now to 195 pounds for AA. Garrett Boone of McGuffey. He gets on the stand with an 8th-place finish.
Yeah, after that first round match he had with Garrett Storch from Canton, he got pinned by him in the first period. So you're wondering, okay, well, how's he going to bounce back to this? He's got to win at least 3 to get on the podium, and that's what he did, beating Reinhardt and then Lugardo, and then beating Jason Stein from Notre Dame Green Pond 9-1. So he got to where he needed to be to get into Blood Round and finish his career as a state medalist.
220 pounds of WPIAL does not have a medalist at this weight class, and at 285 pounds, it was Riley Kemper of Burgestown. He's able to finish 5th in the state.
And this was a really deep weight class when you look at heavyweight. Outside of Kobe Whitehill, who just completely dominated the field here, Kemper gets majored by Whitehill 8-0 in the quarterfinal round.
The only one to make it out of the first period against Whitehill.
Yeah, right. And Kemper survived a really tough match with Emmanuel Ulrich from Mifflinburg in that first round. So he's able to bounce back. He gets a big win. He wrestles actually Jalen Stevens from Myersdale, who was upset in the semifinals, loses to him, and bounces back to take 5th over Bronson Strauss. So good performance by Riley.
One guy who did not make it on the medal stand, Mitch Miles, he just fell into a tough spot in the bracket.
Yeah, you look at Mitch and where he landed, it really was unfortunately a very tough spot for him. And, it just by virtue of the matchups, losing to Dawson Brown in overtime in that first round matchup, Dawson Brown's really tough. And at heavyweight, obviously the differences between a couple points, it can mean quite a lot. And then he loses to Nick Warnke from Saucon Valley in the blood round. So tough draw for him.
Switching over now to AAA at 106 pounds. This bracket went a little bit sideways and not to the way some people expected. Your state champion at 106, Vincent Kilkeary of Latrobe. What a tournament for Kilkeary. I thought he would be able to get to the semis. I liked where he was at in the bracket. I know you mentioned that Keanu Manuel might be a tough matchup for him, but able to get to the semis. But I think everybody expected Tyler Kasich to knock him off. But that was a wild semifinal. So much fun to watch. Kilkeary came back on 2 different occasions with 5-point moves to win 14-10, and then he gets the fall in the finals with a headlock to defeat Jacob Van D. But he doesn't get Mac Church, a guy who lost in the ultimate tiebreaker due to a third caution call in the ultimate tiebreaker. He lost to Matt Repos. Church does battle back, though. He finishes in 3rd place and beating Repos in 3rd and 4th to get 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy, crazy bracket. And you look at Vincent Kilkeary, he got a shout-out from Luke Pletcher after the Big Tens, which was pretty cool. But Vinny comes in. He doesn't win the section, right? He doesn't win the region. He loses to Briar Priest in the sections. He loses to Mac Church in the finals. He has a great regional tournament. But you have to ask yourself, how long can this go, right? And his first-round matchup pins Dominic Flatt. Not a real big surprise there. And then he has Keanu Manuel, a guy who's a junior, 37-1 on the year. I had him highly ranked. I know you said, Kilkeary's going to cruise right past him. No big deal.
I didn't say cruise, but I thought he could beat him.
You did.
Go back to the tape, Jeff.
So, and if you watch this match, very, very close, right? He had several overtime matches here. In fact, the finals was one of them. But Kilkeary survives that 3-1 with a great takedown to get into the semifinals. And then the Tyler Kasich match. And this was just insane because, Kasich, he's a guy who just – he finds ways to gut it out, right? We saw that with him against Nick Allison. We saw that against Ty Waters. He finds ways to win it. But Kilkeary I can't understand how poised he was to get that win. There were so many times we were thinking, all right, it was a nice run, but, man, it's over, right? And he never stopped. He never stopped competing. He never stopped wrestling. He wrestled a full 6 minutes. Not only in the semifinals, so not only does he make it to the semifinals, he gets a rematch with Van D, a guy he wrestled in the Surge tournament. We saw Van D beat him at the Surge 4-2. So another straight second year in a row where we have a finals rematch at 106 pounds between 2 guys that wrestled in the Surge. Kilkeary, it's like, how long can this Cinderella story go? And it went all the way to the top of the podium. It was just absolutely incredible. One of the more impressive feats of the tournament, and we haven't got to 113 yet, but Kilcarry, just really impressive performance. I'm astonished at how good he wrestled there. Especially for an undersized freshman, he really showed some maturity and some dominance.
Where does he weigh in at?
I would say I know he doesn't have any issue making 106 or 108 pounds, whatever, in the postseason. But I would be surprised if it was right around like 102, 104. I can't remember what he weighed in at the Surge, but I'm pretty sure it was under 100.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him here in just a minute when we have him on the show. And by the way, you can't give me my props for calling that win?
You didn't call the win.
I did. I said he was going to beat him, and I didn't. You said cruise by him. I didn't say cruise by him.
I don't know what you said, but
of course you don't, because you didn't say it. If you said it, then we would be talking about how amazing you are.
So let's also talk about Mac Church, how he was able to avenge that loss in the third and fourth place match. He beat Matt Repos, a guy who obviously I went to Central Dauphin, wrestled for Central Dauphin. I wanted to see that matchup, and Repos did win on that controversial caution call, right?
Was it a caution?
I mean, somebody moved. You know what I'm saying? Somebody moved. There was a caution there. Yeah, absolutely there was. Just who was it on?
I mean, if you're the referee, is there a time where you just say, you know what, that's on me?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that was probably the time. If you don't know which guy it was,
you say it's on me.
Yeah.
Right, and do it all over again.
Especially in the ultimate tiebreaker.
Right, and I mean, of course you can say, well, if I'm Mac Church and, I knew that I had 2 cautions on me already, I would be very, very certain to. I rather lose by him escaping than losing on a caution, right? So I mean, you got to be careful on how you're getting on. So it was a slow hand to get on. So I don't know if that changed things. People were saying, well, Repos moved because he got bumped, or Repos. I don't know. I mean, it was clearly at that point you can probably call one on yourself and let the wrestlers decide it, not the ref, but. You also got to be smart, right? You got to know what you're up against.
Once he got down in the consolations, he had a tight win to confirm his medal, but then he picks up a pair of falls, including Tyler Kasich.
Yeah, that was a close match before the fall, so nice comeback for Mac Church, and I think he'll be back just very strong.
Speaking of our state champion, Vincent Kilcarry, he's kind enough to join us now on the phone. Vincent, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on winning a state championship. How does it feel to win state gold?
Feels great. It's a great feeling.
Well, talk a little bit about your postseason. You came into this, not winning a section championship, not winning a WPIAL championship, but you're a state champion. Is it just just talk a little bit about what it feels like to be at the top of the podium at the most important tournament?
It just that final match, getting that final takedown or headlock at the end is kind of like a little bit of a relief just to finally get that win at the end of the season.
And Vincent, you got a little airtime yesterday at the Big Tens. Luke Pletcher gave you a nice shout out.
I did. I saw that.
That was pretty cool. And Luke's been there before, and he's kind of been in that same position as you, getting a big win in the state finals. But this for you had to be pretty special just because of the fact that you had to battle through so many tough guys. Keanu Manuel in overtime, and then that crazy semifinal match against Tyler Kasich. And then, of course, in the finals against Van D, a guy you wrestled in the Surge back in November. Just talk about especially those last 2 matches, how you're able to focus in and get that win.
Well, the semis match, when I came back and I was down 8-3, I came to the center and said, I guess just try something big. Just go big. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. There's nothing to lose. You have a couple more years. I just threw it there. And then in the semis, I said the same thing. Or in the finals, sorry.
And going back to the Surge, I know we had you at the Surge, and I can't remember what you weighed in at, but I'm pretty sure it was under 100 pounds. Did you? How was the weight this year? Were you well under 106 pounds? Did you have to cut any?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I was under. I could eat the day of, but towards the end, I just watched the day before or 2 days before, then I'd be completely fine.
When you look back at your season and everything that you've accomplished, what do you want to try to improve on as you go into your sophomore year?
Get bigger. I want to improve on top. I wasn't riding very well this weekend. That's what I just want to try to do better at.
Well, congratulations on winning a state championship, and we look forward to seeing how you grow in your second high school season.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations, Vincent.
Thank you.
Thanks to Vincent Kilcarry for joining us on the show. Let's go to 113 pounds, where the WPIAL also had a state champion here, but not the one I think everybody was expecting. We talked to Carter Dybert last week. He's coming in as the reigning state champion, and the thought was Dybert's going to win another state championship. Not so fast. He ends up losing in the quarterfinals to Dante Frenzy 4-1, and that was a match where he got taken down early, and then he just got rode for 2 straight periods to lose that match. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the bracket, you have Ethan Bergen just battling through. He gets a huge win over Ben Mon, a guy that was expected to wrestle Dybert in the finals, but then he knocks off Dominic Findora, he knocks off Braxton Apello, and he knocks off Aiden Lewis to win the state championship. Just so many tough wrestlers in his way, but he gets by them all.
I mean, it's actually unbelievable. We talked about Kilcarry and how unbelievable that run was. This was even more impressive, I think, just by the fact that you had a returning state champion, Carter Dybert, in this bracket. You had a guy in Ben Mon, a 2-time state medalist. You had Braxton Apello, who is a returning state medalist. You have Aiden Lewis, who's a returning state medalist. You have Julian Maladano from Boyertown, who's a returning state medalist. You had so many guys here that are capable of getting to the finals. And it's Ethan Bergen, right? A guy who, again, doesn't win his section, doesn't win his regional, and he finds a way to get to the state finals and put himself in a position to win. Just incredible. Really good performance by him. I thought, obviously, that first match with Ben Mon, or I should say his second match with Ben Mon, that was huge for him. And I actually thought after that, because that bottom quadrant there, I thought for sure the winner of Mon and Bergen would get to the semifinals because of Findora's a 6-pounder up at 13. But for him to beat Apello and then go on and beat Aiden Lewis, I mean, who would have scripted that? Honestly, I want to find the person who scripted it to go that way, because I don't believe you. You filled out your bracket afterwards. I honestly, who would have expected Ethan Bergen to come in and just run the table? And Carter was able to bounce back for third. That match with Frenzy was kind of weird. He got that early takedown against him, which was a little bit kind of an odd takedown. But then some weird things went his way. There was a bunch of cautions on that one too. Penalty point for grabbing the fingers, and Frenzy just I mean, you cannot just wrestle to the point where you can't get out from bottom and expect to be a state champ, right? You got to be able to get out from bottom. Frenzy's tough, but if you can't get out from underneath him, you got to figure something else out, right? So, but this was a great performance. What do you think about the ending of that match with the Bergen-Lewis match?
When I look at that move, it was tough to say whether that was 2 or not. I think, he had the legs in there for quite some time, so to not call it right away, then you had to say, okay, he's not going to get that 2, because the position didn't really change once he got those legs. And I think he had that in with about 10 seconds left in that period.
Yeah, I mean, it was a while, and I think you could have easily seen it get called 2, and then should he have lost that, right? I think you could have potentially seen a reversal or maybe at the least an escape, but that was very, very close. I know the Cedar Cliff folks were not so pleased with that, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Ethan Bergen just wrestled his tail off here in Hershey.
For the WPIAL, Carter Dybert, you mentioned, does battle back into consolations. He finishes in 3rd place, including a win over Ben Mon of Cumberland Valley. We see that in the 4th round of consolations as opposed to a final match. Another guy for the WPIAL as well, though, Nico Taddy of West Allegheny. He finishes in 4th place.
He had a great tournament. I was very impressed with Nico. And, I thought he was actually going to get to the semifinals. I had him get into the semifinals over Braxton Apello. And he does lose a 6-5 match to him. That was a really tight match. But you look at what he was able to do, knocking off Dialoni and then Keene and then Frenzy. He beats Frenzy 5-3 for having a Southwest Regional Finals rematch with Dybert. Very impressive for him as a freshman. As I mentioned, very impressed with the way he wrestled.
Speaking of Ethan Bergen, he's kind enough to join us now on the phone. Ethan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on being a state champion. Has it set in that you're a state champ?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, talk a little bit about your mindset coming into this tournament. You just went on a fantastic run to make it to the finals. You had the first win by fall, but then you had the matchup with Ben Mon, a guy who a lot of people were saying is going to be a state finalist. Talk a little bit about that approach you had going into that match with Ben.
I just went in clear-headed and knew if I got to my offense, I'd have a better chance of winning than I did if I sat back and let him push the pace. So I just went in, and then I was just like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to wrestle my best.
Did you feel any kind of nerves at all when you were wrestling in that match or any of the matches for that matter?
I felt nerves in my first match because last year I lost in the pigtail, and it was just a bunch of pressure after I won that got relieved.
And Ethan, talk about, last year, right? You got beat out and you had to actually move up a weight class. How does that affect your mentality coming into this year, knowing that, hey, I'm moving down to 113, probably my true weight class, but talk about just being forced to go up to 120 last year.
Once I lost the wrestle-off, I knew I couldn't just stay down and try to keep wrestling them off and try to beat them out. So I was just like, I have to go to the gym and start getting stronger and put on more weight to be able to compete, or I'm going to get killed at 120. So then I came in this year, and I made sure I worked hard so that I knew 113 was going to be my spot.
And we had talked after the finals, Ethan, about how you had wrestled Aiden Lewis at Powerade, and you were just coming off, I believe, an illness, and it probably, that was a match that it didn't go your way, but you were able to reverse that decision in the state finals. And talk a little bit about that, the first time you guys met and the second time in the finals.
The first time we met, I was able to get to my attacks, but I just couldn't finish. So once I went back to practice, all I've been working on past couple months were finishing shots from all different positions, and I was able to finish one shot in the finals, and that's what made me win.
Whenever you got into that finals match, late in that third period, you were up. You were staying aggressive, though, and trying to hit those fireman's carries, but Lewis tried to throw those legs in. Did you get a little nervous when he tried to put the legs in on you?
At first I did, but I was able to catch his leg and bring it up near my chin, and I was just able to hold on for the win. But after I grabbed his leg, I was like, all right, I got this.
Well, hey, congratulations on winning a state championship. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time, and we are excited to see you come back for your senior year to try to defend your title.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep, congratulations, Ethan.
Thanks to Ethan Bergen for joining us on the show. 120 pounds, Dylan Chappell of Seneca Valley kept things tight in his 3 matches leading to the finals, won by a combined 5-0 score, a pair of 1-0 wins with a 3-0 decision. Didn't give up a point, but also wasn't scoring either. Something we talked a lot about Chappell when we went through his season is that he's a great wrestler, a guy who was very tough to score on, but when he opens up his offense, look out. And unfortunately, he didn't get to a lot of his offense in the finals. He ends up falling short to Will Betancourt 4-2, finishing in second place. Do you think that is what ended up hurting him here?
I don't know if it's the primary reason. I mean, Will Betancourt's a really good wrestler, so we can't take anything away from him. But Dylan did have trouble getting to his offense. As you mentioned, Costa Moore from Canamac, a guy he's familiar with, he beats him 1-0. I thought he could probably put more points on the board there. And then Matt Mayer from Becca, another returning state medalist who I thought was really going to challenge Dylan, and he did, but Dylan was able to hold on for a 1-0 win. I liked his match in the semifinals against Nathan Lucier from Coatesville. He looked good in a 3-0 match, but that meant that way you're wrestling. Betancourt's kind of a similar animal in that sense. So you thought, well, someone's got to score points in this one. And unfortunately for Dylan, it was Betancourt who was able to get to his offense and end up winning that 4-2.
Also for the WPIAL at 120 pounds, Jace Ross of Connellsville, he gets on the medal stand as well with an 8th place finish. We talked last week that we liked his opening round matchup against Crockett, but getting him on the award stand was going to be tough, and he ended up getting a big win to get there.
And he had obviously a great tournament, but talk about a guy who was losing 10-4 in the WPIAL semifinals. What does that say to Nate Roth? Like, hey man, that could have been me. If I'm Nate Roth, I'm pretty a little upset about that. But no, we said that Jace Ross's first match was a very favorable one. He had a guy who was 15-12. He does lose to Andrew Smith and then bounces back for a nice 5-4 win against Rustin Zedlak from Cumberland Valley. So that's the match that ultimately put him into that position to get that medal. So and he does fall in the 8th place match to Lane Akey, but still he's a state medalist.
126 pounds, an all WPIAL final. Curtis Phipps of Norwin, Rocco Welsh of Waynesburg. We get the rematch. Phipps looked strong in getting to the finals, as did Welsh. Both guys just wrestling fantastic to get there to that point. Phipps went up early. Welsh battled back late, but just didn't have enough. And Phipps, a guy who had 2 silver medals, gets the gold.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Curtis and his trajectory and where he's come, and I was happy for him to get that gold medal because he had been there so many times before. But you look equally at Rocco and you say, man, he had a great tournament. He beats Jude Swisher 5-2 and then beats Luke Lucerne from Constant Rock North 3-2, a good match there. And he was battling Curtis in that the final period. He was really turning it on, and he was very close, right?
Yep.
The momentum was swinging there his way. So for Curtis to hang on, it's a big disappointment for Rocco. And I actually talked to Curtis after the win, and I said, what do you say to a guy like Rocco? Because that feeling of losing in the state finals. And he said, hey, I just told him you're going to be fine. You got 3 more years. You're going to be there again, and you're going to walk away with some championships. Keep your head up.
Another guy who got a medal as well, Dylan Evans of Chartiers Valley, a fellow freshman, able to get on the medal stand and finish in 8th place. Solid tournament for Dylan as well.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Dylan. We had talked about Zach Wright and what he was able to do at the Southwest region, and he had a tough match with Luke Lucerne, and then actually came back in the wrestlebacks, beat a returning state medalist in Cole Wilson, but then loses to Sam McGonigal. I thought Dylan Evans had a great performance. He beat a fellow freshman in Dagan Condomiti and then beats Willie Kaler from Pottsville to get into the medal round match. Very impressed with Dylan Evans. The WPIAL just really showed its dominance in this tournament.
The WPIAL was also dominant in the fact that they only lost one guy in the entire first day.
Right.
One guy, 56 qualifiers.
55 made it to the second day, right?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's a stat that I don't know if that's ever been replicated.
That's a stat that tells you they should get that extra qualifier. I mean, they get the most medals out of any district, and I think out of any region as well. But I think that stat alone, because that day 1 is really about eliminating 4 kids, and that really is basically eliminating that extra qualifier potentially. Mm-hmm. To me, I think that right there should open up the PIAA's eyes and say, okay, we should get that to the Southwest region.
Yeah, that ain't never going to happen. But I agree it should. I mean, I think everybody in their right mind, any reasonably minded person knows the WPIAL should get 5 qualifiers to the state tournament, but it's never going to happen.
Well, one guy who got a chance to be at all 4 state championships, Curtis Phipps, kind enough to join us on the phone. Curtis, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on winning a state title after coming up just short the last 2 years. Talk about the feeling it is to get that gold medal.
It was awesome. Finally get the gold medal. It was exciting. A good match. Good tournament all around. Yeah, it's been fun. Getting back in the town. Having a little celebration.
And you were the first Norwin wrestler to win a state gold, correct?
Yep, first one.
How incredible is that feeling?
It's really cool, especially because all the little kids showed up down there and then had a big parade sort of thing when I came back. It was really cool to have all the little kids looking up to me and excited. Hopefully we can get some more now coming up through.
And I'm sure you are going to rub that into your brother, Drew, right?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. But he's doing pretty good in college, so I can't really talk too bad on him right now.
And he's still a little bit bigger than you, too, right? talk about your commitment to Bucknell. Actually, we were talking to Austin Wally about this earlier, and 3 guys going to Bucknell all won state titles. You, Austin, and Dorian Crosby. That's got to be pretty special.
Yeah. Progress in Lewisburg is the hashtag that's been going around. I really think it's coming out through. I think we're going to be pretty good in a couple of years, so hopefully we keep progressing up. And I'm excited to get up there and get working.
And talk about that finals match. It's a match that you've had before. You wrestled Rocco at Powerade. You wrestled him in the Southwest Regional Finals. So you kind of knew what to expect. Did things go the way you planned or you wanted to?
In the Whitfield final, I waited back a little bit too long. Wasn't happy with how I started out the match. So my game plan was to go after him early, which actually worked out really good. I got up 5. I wasn't planning on making it so close at the end, but in the moment, you get a little bit nervous, but I held on for what I had to do, and you can't really complain in the end, and you get state title.
How much did it motivate you? You had the loss to Finn Sullivan in the section final, and then they give you the 3 seed. When you guys all beat each other, but really to give you the 3 seed, it didn't seem right. So how much did that motivate you from that point forward to do what you did?
I think that loss was actually the best thing that happened to me this year because my training, my mindset completely changed after that. I put what I definitely believe was my 2 best weeks of practice together in 2 hardest weeks, and I think it helped a lot, especially going to Whitfield. Felt really confident, got the job done there, and had a lot of confidence going into the state tournament, which is what you need.
And Curtis, you were selected to represent Team Pennsylvania at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic at 126 pounds. Talk about that and how excited you are for that matchup.
I've had the matchup once before, came out short, so I'm excited to try and get some revenge on them. But more than that, I'm just excited to go have some fun, get the experience with all these guys I know, and go battle, as always.
Well, congratulations on winning state gold, and best of luck as you head off to Bucknell.
Thank you.
Yep. Congratulations, Curtis. We'll see you this weekend.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks to Curtis Phipps for joining us on the show. 132 pounds. It was going to be hard to say who was going to come out of this. There were 4 amazing wrestlers at this weight class. Herrera Rondon, Patrick Noonan, Willishell, and Kenny Herman. WPIAL, though, comes up short in those 2 semifinal matches. Noonan defeats Herrera Rondon in the ultimate tiebreaker. Herman defeats Willishell in overtime. So we do get to see the Willishell-Herrera Rondon rematch, but it's for 3rd and 4th. Willishell finishing in 3rd place. Cole Hammett of Waynesburg, a great tournament for him. He finishes in 5th. So WPIAL 3-4-5 here, but probably not where they wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're a 2-time returning state champion in Ali Herrera. You obviously want to get back to the top of the podium, and he was very close. That match with Noonan was just, I mean, that was a brutal match, man. And Noonan just looked so strong in that match. I don't know if you saw that as well, but I just looked at him, and it's like, man, Noonan just, his power was a little bit too much, I think. Ali was right there, 5-4 and ultimate tiebreaker. It just, heartbreaking loss for him, and to have to come back from that. And same with Gabe. Gabe had a heartbreaking loss to Kenny Herman. I mean, Herman was looking good, and then Gabe kind of comes back late. It was just
Gabe was up 3-1.
Yeah,
Herman gets that takedown late to tie the match, and then he gets the 2 in overtime. I think once Herman got the tie,
the momentum was. I knew it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I thought as soon as he got that takedown, you knew, because I mean, Gabe's such a tough opponent for a wrestler who's never competed against him like Kenny, but Kenny wrestled him last year in the state tournament, so he had that kind of feeling that, hey, if I'm going to beat him, I got to beat him on my feet. I can't be rolling around the mat with him, but Gabe ends his career on a high note, beating Ali in the 3rd place match. That's a huge boost for him because he lost him in the regional tournament, so he beats a 2-time state champion in the 3rd place match. So very good performance by him. Cole Hammett just as well. He lost to Ali 3-0, but he comes back to take 5th. Very impressive here by the by the WPIAL.
138 pounds, another impressive weight class as they get 3 into the semifinals. Sam Hilligus of North Hills, Wyatt Henson of Waynesburg, they end up doing battle in the finals. Henson wins the championship, beats Sam Hilligus for the 2nd time in as many weeks, 4-3 for the title. John Altieri comes in fourth place. The only guy ahead of him, Deshaun Farber, a guy that had to battle Hillegas in the quarterfinals. So solid performance by all three of those guys to be top four in the state. But you look at that matchup, Henson and Hillegas. Henson, 2 deep double leg takedowns, wins the match.
He looked so good in that double leg. I mean, it was pretty deep. There's no stopping that one. And I will say John Altieri, I had him in the semifinals, but he really wrestled tough. Beating Riley Bauer, he actually pinned him in overtime. He had a nice win over Dominic Ferrantino from Shippensburg in the opening round. I was very impressed with Altieri. And Hillegas, though, I thought he was a man on a mission, because you beat Deshaun Farber, a 2-time state champion in Georgia, a state runner-up last year. He beats him 12-2, mops the mat with him. And then John Altieri, we had talked about it, he majored John Altieri in the region semifinals, and I thought Altieri looked really good. This time around, Hillegas comes out, in under 3 minutes, tech falls him. I mean, I thought, this is it. He's a man on a mission. He's coming out for... Literally, you don't tug on Superman's cape. He's coming out. But then Wyatt Henson, for him to deliver in the state finals, first time in the state finals, it was just an incredible performance. Because Sammy Hillegas is one of the best wrestlers in the nation, period. So it's not that Sammy wrestled bad. It's that Wyatt is really, really good, and he's improved so much, even over the year, right? Because Powerade, he lost to him, and then, he's been lights out.
I was talking to Joe Throckmorton of Waynesburg, and he mentioned that Wyatt had a match in the Beast of the East tournament, and it was in the early rounds, first or second round. It was a match that probably shouldn't have happened that early, 2 highly ranked guys. But he said the score was like 13-10, 13-12. And he said Wyatt came off the mat, and he goes, if you're going to keep wrestling like that, you are not going to be a state champion. You got to wrestle takedown defense. Takedown defense. So that's what they've been preaching with him ever since he came off the mat at Beast of the East. And you could tell that, right? Because he wrestles Hillegas in the Powerade, and I think he lost, 8-2? But that's what they worked with him on. Takedown defense. And it shows that worked by beating Hillegas not only once, but twice.
Right. If you would, and I picked Hillegas to win this weight. If even after losing to him in the regional finals, I thought he was just going to come back strong. And by the way he was wrestling, I definitely thought that was the case. One guy here who just missed the podium, and that was Chan Shear from Seneca Valley. Right, he loses to Christian Hodges 3-2. He loses to Evan Gleason, a guy he had pinned in the state dual tournament. So I know he's disappointed, but he has a chance to come back. John Altieri, though, man, what a performance by him.
Wyatt Henson, we talked about how well he wrestled. He's kind enough to join us now on the phone. Wyatt, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on winning a state title. Obviously, you won a state title in another state last year, but how's it feel to win one here in PA?
Oh, it feels a lot better. The depth here is deeper than the depth in Missouri.
Yeah, just talk a little about that difference, because, a lot of people talk about the states and, how much stronger PA is, but, you could actually speak to that since you wrestled in 2 different states. What are the 2 different tournaments like as far as the state tournaments?
Like I said, the depth, there's a lot more fans in the finals than there were in Missouri, so that plays a pretty big factor.
You had a great season all year long wrestling on your feet, but the fact that you had a tough opponent in your WPIAL final as well as a state final in Sam Hillegas. Talk about just your mindset going into the matches against Hillegas.
Just to do the same exact thing I did the week before, because I knew he couldn't go with me on my feet, and just have fun.
And why we had talked about after the state finals, you had wrestled Sammy at the Powerade, and it's like you a flip switched, because after that, you just really went on a tear. You had a couple of tough matches at the Beast of the East, and your head coach said, you're working on takedown and defense. You guys were just working on it hard, and that really showed. Talk about just what you were working on in the room to get to where you're at.
My top and bottom, I felt like I worked on most of it this year. But yeah, my leg defense, I felt like we worked on a lot, and definitely taking less shots and more accurate shots.
And you said after the finals that you're going to Russia soon, right? You're going to Russia in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, like next week I fly out.
So you got to fly out to Russia, and then you're going to compete in freestyle. You gotta. I'm sure you gotta go back to the lab and start training some freestyle, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be in there either today or tomorrow. Not today or tomorrow. Tomorrow or Wednesday.
Enjoy that state championship. You deserve a day off, Wyatt.
Yeah, I know.
And when you look at your future, Wyatt, you've committed to Iowa. Just talk a little bit about your decision to make that commitment.
The way the coaches brand, the way they coach is like how my dad coaches, and they're just like a family there, and I think that's important.
Well, Wyatt, we appreciate you taking some time out to join us. Congratulations on your PIAA State title, and we look forward to seeing you come back for your senior season.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, congratulations, Wyatt.
Thanks to Wyatt Henson for joining us on the phone. 145 pounds, a weight class that was very deep with a lot of talent, and the WPIAL gets all 4 wrestlers on the medal stand. We talked about how deep it was within the WPIAL, and all 4 guys wrestled very well here, as it was Jared Kessler of Connellsville finishing in 4th place, Ty Linzenbigler of Hempfield in 5th, Mason Spears of Franklin Regional in 6th, and Antonio Emilio of Seneca Valley in 8th place. Although they don't get a state champion, they get 4 solid performances.
This was incredible, and I thought because of the depth here, I thought we would. I think I'll have to go back and listen to it, but I thought I said 2 or 3. But to get 4 guys on here, guys like Jake Dressler, who Kessler just destroyed in that opening pigtail round match, I thought I said that was a toss-up match, and Kessler just comes out and tech falls him, and then he gets the rematch with Antonio Petroselli from Owen J. Roberts, who, I said probably would have a good. He would be battling Kessler, and you said, hey, I think Kessler's going to win this one. You were right, 100%, Greg, because he came out and just dominated Petroselli 5-3, beats Brooks Gable, puts himself into the semifinals, loses to Jagger Condomindi, who had a crazy bout with Ty Linzenbigler from Hempfield. That was, I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, yeah.
That was a wild 9-7 match in sudden victory. My gosh. That was on Mat 1, and I could have watched that at least 20 more times because that was such a good, highly contested bout. Then you look at Mason Spears. Mason Spears comes in, gets a good win over Sam Hayes, loses to Cole Handovic, but then bounces back in the wrestlebacks, beats Cade Balestrini 2-1. That was huge. Then he doesn't stop there because you already were guaranteed your medal. You win the blood round over returning state medals. Then he gets Petroselli. Guy who's going to pit, Mason Spears, beats him 3-0, loses to Kessler 5-1 in a rematch of the Southwest Regional semifinals. Just a great performance by the WPI here. Antonio Emilio, after having over 10 losses in his season and really just been battling some of the top guys in the state all season, including the WPIAL, he comes in with a win over Brooks Gable, falls to Ty Linzenbigler, and Linzenbigler battles Panero Johnson. So just a crazy performance. I was very impressed with all 4 of these guys.
Emilio was seeded 7th in a WPIAL tournament, and WPIAL seeds exceptionally well.
And he was right where I thought he was right where he belonged. I don't think he got shafted at all. I thought that,
he had a great WPIAL tournament to get in the top 4.
Correct. Based on his performances throughout the year, you had Nathan Luquez, you had all these other guys at 45. Jackson Gray. Right. All these guys that just, were on, and that just shows. I really think the WPIAL probably could have had 5 guys medal here, right? I think Jackson Gray, Nathan Luquez, those guys would have been battling for a spot on the podium here. So, yeah, just a great performance.
152 pounds for the WPIAL, only getting 1 guy on the medal stand, but it was a good performance and a great weekend for Cole Spencer of Pine Richland as he finishes in 4th place.
And Spencer had a good performance. He beats Ethan Bainey, a former state medalist, loses to Matt Lackman 2-1. That was a tight match, and I was... Lackman just wrestled a great weekend coming in and finishing 3rd. I thought Lackman just had a great performance, especially for a guy who had never been to the state tournament before, has been battling injuries all his career. Cole Spencer loses to him, wrestles all the way back for the 3rd place match, knocks off Sammy Starr in a rematch. He beats him 8-3 to knock Sammy Starr out. It's just unfortunate that those 2 had to wrestle in the blood round because, those 2 were so close in the regional finals. This time, Spencer is able to get the win. He then beats Ty Weathersby from CD, beats Marcus McLaurin from Cathedral Prep, and then loses to Matt Lackman again. But, Sammy Starr was right there. He was very, very close. He lost to Stefanik from Nazareth 4-3 and then loses to Cole Spencer, as we said. He was right there. And I thought so was Chase Kranitz as well. I thought he battled well. He lost to Weathersby 8-4. So he was very close in the blood round as well. I think these guys are poised to have good seasons next year.
And you look at Kranitz, he's probably looking at that match against McLaurin and wanting to take that back. He got pinned in 35 seconds, thrown onto his back early. If he's able to take that one back, that's probably one he's looking at and saying, okay, I could be a medalist if I was able to get past, especially with McLaurin finishing in 6th place. But, it shows he battled back tough and didn't let it affect him when he gets 2 majors to just get into the blood round. 160 pounds for the WPIAL, Jack Bloomer of Kiski finishing in 4th place. Luca Augustine of Waynesburg finishing in 6th place.
And this was just a deep weight class. I mean, you had 2 guys that were both runner-ups before, Clayton Ulrey and Luke Nichter, which was an awesome match, by the way. And you knew those 2 were kind of on a collision course. At least I thought they were. Luke Augustine, though, was right in there with Clayton Ulrey, and Jack Bloomer was right in there with Luke Nichter. Jack had a tough match in the 3rd place match. He beats Connor Quinn 9-1, but then loses to Connor Hersig, who had a great performance. He knocks off both Augustine and Bloomer to get the 3rd place finish. His only loss of the tournament was to Luke Nichter. So Connor Hersig had a great performance. And Jack Bloomer, he does finish one step lower on the podium than he did last year, but still just a great career for him.
Bloomer wasn't coming in at full strength, though. Talking to Chris Heater, he mentioned that all 3 guys for Kiski were actually dealing with a little bit, had some cold going into the state tournament. He said not to make excuses because that's not what we want to do, but he said that those guys didn't even practice the week. He said the only day they stepped off the mat on Saturday, and they were actually, he said, like Jack was actually sick in the WPIAL championships, but they did not practice Sunday, did not practice Monday or Tuesday either. He said they actually missed school on Monday and then went into school Tuesday but didn't practice. And then Wednesday, when they went to Hershey, that's the only time they stepped on the mat prior to Saturday.
That's tough. It's hard to win at that level without that experience on the mat.
Another guy who had a strong performance at 160, Guy DeLeonardis of Knock.
Yeah, he had a good performance. He beat Roman Moser in the pigtail match 14-2, lost by major to Ulrey, but then came back to win over Matt Kidwell, loses to Hersig 9-5, but he was right in there in the blood round match. So for a guy who, kind of surprised everybody at the Southwest Regional Tournament, this was a good performance for him.
170 pounds of WPIAL. Solid performance here in a deep weight class as well. Max Stout of Mount Lebanon in 2nd place. Eli Brinsky of South Fayette in 6th place. And Tyler Kosak of Hampton finishing in 8th place. And first of all, you look back at a couple of things. First, with Brinsky, he beats Nick Delp of Kiski in the blood round to advance, and that was on a defensive fall. That
was a wild match.
Trailing 3-1 with just seconds left, and leans back into Delp, gets the fall. But then you look at Stout. Boy, he gets the ultimate tiebreaker win over Trey Kibe, and he was leading Lenny Pinto when he got pinned.
He certainly was, and I mean, 170 was by far the toughest bracket of the tournament, just based on all the nationally ranked guys here. Dylan Reinhart, Angel Garcia, Trey Kibe, Max Stout, and Lenny Pinto. Just loaded bracket, and Max Stout really wrestled well against Trey Kibe. That was a very entertaining match, and the finals was the best. That was the best finals match for me of the night, because both guys, so many times in the state finals we have guys that go out there and wrestle to not lose.
Yep.
These guys went out there to win. Both those guys just let it fly, which I love to see. And he was winning. That was a back and forth match, but Lenny Pinto, hats off to him, because he had a great tournament, great performance. I think Mac is disappointed, obviously, but I think he's gonna be okay, right? He's only a sophomore. He didn't make it to states last year, so in his first time at states, he makes it to the finals over a returning state champion. So really good performance by him. But let's talk about Eli Brinsky, because he gets that defensive fall over Nick Delp, which was a crazy match in itself, but then beats Tyler Kosak from Hampton 3-1, loses to Trey Kibe 5-1, and then loses to Angel Garcia. But, man, talk about just what a performance by him.
Oh, no doubt about it. Love seeing Eli Brinsky be able to get on the stand. I wish we could have had all 4 WPIAL wrestlers here, just because I love all 4. I love the way all 4 of these guys wrestle. But in such a deep weight class, to get 3 on there is just incredible. And Brinsky, just a guy who able to get to the state tournament. Had never been there before. and then to be able to get on the stand as well before he graduates. Just a great job by Eli.
And you look at Nick Delp, he battled Trey Cobb. That was a 3-1 match. It was a tight match. He was in that match. So, we're talking about very close, right? Very close performances between these guys. And for them, not a lot of separation between these guys. So for Eli Brinsky and Tyler Kosak to come through and join Max Stout on the podium, great. I think Delp probably, given a different matchup, he probably would have been on there as well.
182 pounds in all WPIAL final. Garrett Ninehouse of Cannon McMillan, Donovan McMillan of Peters Township. And this is the first time that two guys from Washington County actually wrestled in the finals together. But when you look at Ninehouse, he was just a man on a mission. It looked so strong against Joey Milano in the quarterfinals, and just an impressive performance in the championship over McMillan. But when you look at McMillan, he had a tough road to get there, and he was able to do it and do it in impressive fashion.
He really did. He had a very tough road. Max Gurley, a match that I thought he probably would have won by more. Caden Wright, very, very tough wrestler going to Lehigh. McMillan comes out, beats him 4-2. But the biggest match was against Max Hale from Downtown West, a guy who we had talked about the week earlier because he knocked off Joey Milano, who was number 2 for the longest time. And McMillan comes in and beats him 5-4 to get to the finals. Now, he was the guy who probably I was getting the most questions fielded about, like, hey, who is this guy? Where do you come from? And, like, why wasn't he at the state tournament last year? I'm like, well, he's in a tough region. That's kind of what my response to that was. Not surprised at all that he was able to get to the finals. I think we said that there was a good chance that we could see this again, depending on where things went. You say this was the first time. This is not the first time two Washington guys have met in the finals.
That's what I was told.
No, that's there's no way that I can. Back in the 50s, there was definitely some Washington County guys going head to head.
In the 50s, there would only be one guy going at a time in states.
Maybe there's. I'm pretty certain there had to have been.
You're gonna have to look it up then.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. And you know what? I didn't believe it when I was told it, but obviously,
unless Ken Stats Wonderly says it, I won't believe it because he is the king of.
We're gonna have to dial him up.
He's the
find out.
king of WPIAL wrestling media stats. So I'll ask him.
Yeah, please do, because it was actually said on the broadcast, or radio broadcast on WJPA, and usually we don't say anything unless it's factual. So I believe it was John Sacco was the gentleman who found the stat, and Mark Uriah mentioned that when Sacco reports things that it's always accurate. So
it's hard for me to believe that that's never.
I was
happened.
shocked. I was shocked
just because of the amount of talent in Little Washington. So I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Another note as far as Garrett Ninehouse, he wins his second state title. We talked about this just a little bit ago in the show, but he is now the all-time wins leader in WPIAL history with 181 career wins. He passes Dane Johnson and Jeff Alexander. Johnson actually was the record holder at 182, but some incorrect reporting got him down to 180, and that was fixed this year. So Ninehouse with 181 has the most wins in WPIAL history.
Yeah, it's funny because Ken Wonderly and I were talking before the postseason, and he's the one who kind of caught that Dane Johnson was actually not the career wins leader after going back and doing some research. And it's interesting because he said had he not had 4 matches at sections, which there was a really good chance he may not have because 182 he starts thinning out there. So if he would have only had 3 matches, he never would have broke it. He would have tied it. Once going into the postseason, when we saw the brackets, we said, okay, this is it. He wins out, he's going to get it. Or if he loses, then wrestle back, he'll get it. But clearly, I didn't think the pound for pound.
He wasn't going to lose.
Yeah, the pound for pound best wrestler in the state of Pennsylvania wasn't going to lose.
And I agree with you. I think he definitely is pound for pound probably the number one guy at this point. He was just so dominant in his performance. Speaking of Garrett Ninehouse, he's kind enough to join us now on the show. Garrett, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on winning a state title. Your second. Does the second feel any different than the first?
I think that first time getting it's always going to be a little bit more special, but, always the goal, win state titles.
Well, you were seemed, determined throughout the entire postseason, as you were just dominant throughout, and including in the state championships. Just talk a little bit about your mindset as you went through the tournament. Just seemed like nothing was going to stop you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to let anyone dictate how I wrestled. I was going to go in there, wrestle the way I wrestle, not let anyone dictate my pace. And, I just felt like if I did that, I'd definitely come away with number 2.
And Garrett, talk about your selection to the Pennsylvania team at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. It's got to be a great honor for you, an event I know you've been at before. Just talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was little, there was all those great Can-Am-Mac guys like Connor Schramm, Dalton Macri, Solomon Chisco, all those guys always competed in it. I remember I always thought it was the biggest deal, and it's a real honor to be competing in that.
And talk about your future going forward. You're going to Purdue, a Big Ten school, and a program that I'd say is on the rise, and I'm sure you're going to be a key component to sort of the future there. Talk about Purdue and what you're excited about.
I mean, I really think Coach Ursula has something really special coming up there. If you look, they weren't supposed to be that good this year. I think they finished like 5th at Big Tens. They definitely have something special going on there. I'm really excited to be a part of it.
And Garrett, we saw you last year do a good amount of freestyle wrestling. Is there any plans this summer to continue freestyle?
Yeah, definitely. I'm heading down to Purdue pretty early, like June 15th, and that's probably what we're going to be working there. Probably go down to the Open down in Vegas, and yeah, we'll see.
Garrett, you also get the most wins in WPIAL history with 181 for your career. Talk a little bit about how that feels.
There's obviously such a rich history of amazing wrestlers that have come up through the WPIAL, and it's a real honor to be able to say I have the most wins out of anyone through there. And yeah, it felt great.
Well, congratulations on winning your second state championship, and best of luck as you head off to Purdue.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Garrett. We'll see you this weekend.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
Thanks to Garrett Ninehouse for joining us on the show. 195 pounds. Luke Stout of Mount Lebanon gets the gold medal that he had been missing, and he was impressive throughout. 2 falls, a tech fall, and a major decision to win it. And, of course, he had to wrestle in the finals. Luke Montgomery of Bethel Park. Montgomery had a tough one in the semis. Escapes the win over Jake Lucas of Cumberland Valley 7-6 in the ultimate tiebreaker, but Stout just looked impressive as ever in beating Montgomery. And Braden Roskowski of Kiski also getting on the stand with a solid 6th-place performance.
And I thought, man, Garrett Ninehouse pound for pound, but Luke Stout's not far behind. He just looked so good in this tournament. As you mentioned, 2 falls, a tech fall, and then a major over a guy he's beaten 6 times this year. All 6 of Luke Montgomery's losses are from the hands of Luke Stout. Just most frustrating thing in the world probably for him. Bethel Park and Mount Lebanon just so happen to be right next to each other, and the top 2 guys in the state live probably 10 minutes from each other, right? So Brandon Roskowski also had a tough match with Jake Lucas. He lost to him in sudden victory 3-1 in that opening round. He was able to bounce back, get a couple close wins over Harkless, and then Jackson Talbot from CD loses to Lucas again, and then comes back to take 6. So good performance by Roskowski.
Joining us now on the phone is Mount Lebanon's Luke Stout. Luke, thanks for joining us.
Yep, no problem.
First and foremost, congratulations on winning a state title. You came up short a year ago. How does it feel to actually get that gold medal?
It's great to see everything that I visualized this past year and kind of my whole life, and especially these last 4 years in high school, coming up short made me want this even more. Now it just feels great to finally have it.
You were determined all season long, and just even in the state tournament, you were just dominant. A pair of falls as well as a tech fall, and then to wrestle Luke Montgomery, the amount of times you did and still pick up that major decision. Just talk about what it was like at Hershey and how focused you were.
Yeah, I was definitely focused. I came in there with a goal. Training all season, that's what I was picturing the whole time, just winning that tournament in Hershey and going down there and just treating every match like every other one I've ever wrestled on. I think that just really helps keep that laser focus that, I tried to have in each and every one of my matches.
And Luke, we had talked about afterwards that, Mac falls in the finals. You fell there last year. As a big brother, what do you say to him, and how do you support him in saying, hey, look, you got 2 more years, you're going to be right there in the mix?
Yeah, no, I mean, he just has to keep his head up. I mean, he wrestled a awesome tournament. I mean, I think there's nothing he should be ashamed of. I mean, we're all proud of him, and I think he should be proud of himself in the end. And like you said, I lost last year, so I mean, I know where he's at, and I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to come back next year with that same hunger that he had this year for that championship.
And going forward, you get to wrestle in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic over the weekend. You're actually one of 2 195-pounders. You and Gage Garcia. And how does that feel to be selected for that team and being to go against the Team USA?
I'm really excited. It's going to be great to cap off my high school career with that match. Team PIAA is really strong this year. I mean, I think we have a chance to take out Team USA. So I think that's going to be a really awesome experience.
And, we forgot to tell you, there's going to be an exhibition match as well. You and Gage Garcia are going to wrestle beforehand, too.
I mean, yeah.
I just wanted to see your reaction, Luke, because that would be a dream matchup for a lot of people. So
yeah, no, I mean, that'd be awesome. So, yeah.
Talk about just the commitment for you going out to Princeton. We had talked earlier in the season. I think it was after Eastern Areas. Princeton's your next stop there, and they've been on the rise. That's a program that this year especially they've been doing really well, making some noise.
Yeah, a great year. I mean, I definitely went through a huge part of my decision how up and coming the team is, and I mean the energy there is amazing. And I mean everyone there wants to compete and succeed, and I think just surrounding myself with those people is gonna be really great for me.
And Luke, just one question that we got to ask. You wrestled Luke Montgomery, it felt like 1,000 times. How tough was that to just wrestle the same guy? It seemed like week after week.
Yeah, well, I ended up wrestling him 6 different times, and it was just really hard to get to the same attacks over and over. I mean, we were both making adjustments after every match, and I mean, we both had someone filming each other. So yeah, it was definitely difficult to go into the match with the same game plan every time. So I mean, it was kind of interesting feeling it out for however long a minute every match just to see how we switched it up. And I mean, and then it worked out well. I think winning those matches, it really kind of got a mental edge. I think it just really reassured myself that I'm doing everything right.
Well, you definitely did that in winning a state title. Congratulations on winning gold, and best of luck as you head off to Princeton.
Thank you very much.
Yep, congratulations, Luke. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, thanks.
220 pounds at WPIAL with 2 medalists. We had John Myers of Greensburg-Salem finishing in 3rd, Cole Waitman of Bell-Vernon finishing in 6th place. We talked about this in the 5 minutes we did like each other on the drive up, about how Cole Waitman, we liked the way he wrestled in the WPIAL tournament, the way he just took it to John Myers. And if there was a guy that could be the surprise of the tournament, it would be Waitman because of how well he wrestled. And in that, he almost didn't get out of the opening round against TJ Moore. He ended up was trailing in that match, but comes back to get the fall late. But he battled Crosby. He battled him tough, and to the point where he was close a couple of times on a takedown. Crosby ends up getting the win, and then Waitman ends up essentially injury defaulting out to 6th place. But John Myers, talk about him as well. He was solid getting to the semifinals, and then he was dominant after losing that match to Nate Schoen to get a pair of falls to get 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, the story here is Cole Waitman and John Myers both performing very well. As you mentioned, Cole Waitman survives TJ Moore, pins Steven Schott from Nazareth, who's not too shabby, and then battles Dorian Crosby, who ends up winning the state title. After that semifinal match, I thought, okay, he's going to come back for 3rd. He is injured. I'm not sure the specific injury, but he was banged up, loses in the consolation semifinals 10-2 to Chase Malenik, and then forfeits out. But John Myers, as you mentioned, pins Schott and then pins Malenik to finish 3rd. Seton Hill's got a great one in Myers. Very impressed with him. And, if you look at the Surge results, John Myers wrestled Dorian Crosby in the Surge finals. That was a tight match, and they finished 1-3 in the state. So, it's great to see these matches happen early on and see how they end up later in the season in March.
Yeah, you get some wild cards thrown in, some guys who are getting in that mix. But if you're, not to toot our own horn here about the tournament with the Surge, but if you want to see these kind of matches early on, you get to see them.
You get to see them, right? Van D and Kilcarry, right? Matt Lackman and Panero Johnson, two guys that ended up doing very well towards the end of the season. You look at Dorian Crosby, Jonathan Myers, Nick Feldman, Jake Lucas. Those were both finalists here at the Surge. So, I mean, I agree. Not to say, the Surge is great, but you get to see a lot of good competition. You get your hands on that guy. You get to feel him. You get to say, hey, I'm right there with him. Kilcarry, undersized guy, wrestles Van D. I'm going to go back and watch that film. I know that match. I know what I needed to do. So, yeah, I mean, it was great. It's a great tournament. I can't wait to get started on the third annual now.
And it's good to see some guys as well coming into this who can get that experience with guys across the state, right?
Right.
So like to give you an example of a guy, just because, I know of him, but Joey Senapal of Burgestown, he goes into that tournament. He had a great Surge tournament, and that opened our eyes to him at that point. I mean, obviously, we're aware of him coming into it, but as a freshman, but he opened his eyes and we could see, he's going to be a player. And look at him as a freshman getting in the state tournament.
Right.
And so that's just going from a guy who maybe isn't a huge name to, the guys that we're talking about that are the big names. It represents a lot of people at that Surge tournament.
Yeah, no, it does, and that's the beauty of it, I think, because we saw guys from all across the state. We had a couple guys from Easton. Braxton Appella was there. You had Anthony Glassell there as well. He wrestled Allie in the final. So, I mean, you get to see a good mix, and, I can't wait for the third. I think it's just going to grow, and I think we're going to get more guys from across the state, too. So, not to make it into a promo, but, I'm really looking forward to seeing some guys battle.
One last weight class to recap at 285 pounds for the WPIAL. Isaiah Vance of Hempfield, he finishes in second place. Quentin Franklin of South Fayette in fourth place with a great tournament, and William McChesney of Greensburg-Salem in seventh place. Vance had Franklin in the round of 16 and has a solid win against him, and then just looks solid to get to that final before running into the buzzsaw that is Hunter Katka. But look at Quentin Franklin. After he lost to Vance, he ends up pulling off 4 victories to get to that third-place bout where he lost in overtime. One of those wins was against William McChesney of Greensburg-Salem, a 3-1 winner.
And a win was over Ben Grafton, 2-1 in ultimate tiebreaker. So
in the blood round. Yeah.
In the blood round. So he beat 2 WPIAL guys to get there. He was probably one of the most impressive guys of the tournament for me because Quentin Franklin, he had a late start to this season. I would say he had an okay regular and postseason, right? Yeah. Nothing spectacular. Vance was the clear guy, and finishing behind McChesney, who was a runner-up. I thought, okay, he'll come in and win a couple matches here, but for him to come out and do as well as he did as the 4th place finisher out of the Southwest region, that shows a lot. Vance had a tough match with Adam Cass from Conrad Weiser, 8-7 in the quarterfinals, so I thought I was a little concerned about that. McChesney comes out and he finishes in 7th place, so just a lot of openness here at heavyweight. I thought a lot of you change the names here. I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see some of these guys on the podium.
With the state tournament finished up, now we move our focus to the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic, and then once the Wrestling Classic finishes up, then we focus on the off season. And the next tournament coming up, as we just alluded to, would be the Surge. As far as folk style wrestling, obviously we have a lot of freestyle and Fargo and the like coming up. But when you look at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic and the teams that were put together, the PIAA All-Star team, I guess first and foremost, how tough is it? Because I know you're part of the committee that helps with these teams, Jeff. How hard is it to put these teams together?
I mean, it's really difficult. It's extremely difficult to do. And unfortunately, some guys are just, they're not going to. Some guys get overlooked, or not overlooked, but a lot of good guys aren't going to be competing in it. And it's a tough thing to pick the top guys and to juggle weights because, everyone's saying, well, why don't you have a heavyweight? Well, we couldn't get anyone, a top nationally ranked guy at heavyweight to commit to it. We just couldn't. We were getting stonewalled at every turn. I can't tell you how many times I've messaged or contacted somebody from heavyweight to try to get them to come in, and we just couldn't do it. So we tried to think outside the box and think about getting the best matchups, and we thought, man, wouldn't it be great if we could get 2 number 1 guys in the nation going head-to-head? The guy who gets screwed here is Colby Whitehill, 2-time state champion. He's going to Pitt. We don't have a heavyweight match, and he's not in it. Well, that sucks. But we have two guys at 195. We have Gage Garcia and Luke Stout, two of the top-ranked guys in the nation at 195, both getting an opportunity to wrestle. We don't have a 13-pound weight class because, again, nationally, we really don't have anyone at 113 pounds that we felt was going to be able to compete. So instead of two 120s, we had two 138s because we have Bo Bartlett and we have Sammy Hilligus, two guys that are, again, top guys in the nation. So, yeah, it's extremely tough to do. And you know that someone's always going to be upset, right? That's always going to happen. I don't think there's been a year in the Classic where there was not a wrestler who said, that was not upset that they weren't selected. And that just means that it's a prestigious event. People want to wrestle in this event, and for good reason. The biggest pushback we're going to get is from Lachlan McNeil from Wyoming Seminary because he is originally from Canada, right? He wrestled in the Canadian world team, but he wrestled in Pennsylvania the last 2 years. We felt like he was a good option, and he's there. So, you're not going to, again, you're going to have people, I've seen some comments, there's some people that are very upset about that, but, it is what it is. Again, we try to put the best team out there. We try to win this. We want Pennsylvania to win, but we do it in the sense that the USA team, it's not like we go out and get guys that aren't capable. We try to get the best guys, right? We tried to get Robbie Howard. Robbie Howard was injured. He couldn't go. We tried to get Yanni Diakomahalis or Greg Diakomahalis. He couldn't go. We tried to get some other guys in there, and, we ask all these guys, and no one knows that. No one knows behind the scenes stuff that goes on. There was a lot of good guys that just, for whatever reasons, they could not compete in it. So, we have to do what we do and get the best guys out there.
For the WPIAL, if you put all the guys who are from the WPIAL on the WPIAL team, they would win against the state they wrestle every single time because there are so many WPIAL guys who wrestle on the state tournament. But to run through both teams from WPIAL perspective, on the PA team, Curtis Phipps at 126 pounds, Sam Hilligus at 138, Garrett Ninehouse at 182, Luke Stout at 195. So 4 outstanding wrestlers from the WPIAL are on the PA team.
Yeah, I don't see how you could argue with any 4 of those guys. Sammy Hilligus didn't win a state title the last 2 years, but he won 2 before that. He's going to Virginia Tech, considered one of the top wrestlers in the nation, despite losing to Wyatt Henson. I'm happy with him being on there. And Curtis Phipps, 3-time finalist, 1-time champion. Luke Stout, 2-time finalist, 1-time champion. And Garrett Ninehouse, pound for pound, the best wrestler in Pennsylvania. Those are guys you're going to have. Those are guys that are going to be favored to win matches in the Classic. So I'm very happy with that. And I'm happy with the WPIAL team, too. I really like this one because, it's headlined by guys like Ryan Michaels and Thane Lawrence, Luke Montgomery, and Gabe Willishell. All those guys, Gabe Willishell, right there, very close to being in the state finals. Ryan Michaels was in the state finals. Thane Lawrence, 2-time state champion, right, on the WPIAL team, man. I feel bad for Maryland because these guys are coming out, man. These guys are going to come out and battle hard. Austin Wally, state champions there as well at 182, so I'm excited.
WPIAL team, just for anyone listening in that hasn't looked it up, 113 is Dom Giordano from Kiski, 120 Ryan Michaels from Elizabeth Forward, 126 Zach Wright from Hampton, 132 Gabe Willishell from Latrobe, 138 Nate Lucas from Pine Richland. So you get him to come down from 145 to 138. How much weight did they get for this one?
5 pounds.
So that just goes to show how much that he wants to be in that event. He's weighing in, up to 147 all season long, but comes down 4 pounds for this event. Mason Spears at 145, Jack Bloomer at 152 from Kiski, Spears from Franklin Regional, Thane Lawrence of Fraser at 160, Eli Brinsky of South Fayette at 170, 182 Austin Wally of Elwood City, 195 Luke Montgomery of Bethel Park, 220 John Myers of Greensburg Salem, and 285 Riley Kemper of Burgestown. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. Like I said, I know a lot of people are going to be upset, but it's a prestigious event for a reason. This has been going on for a very long time for a reason, and we continue to make changes, and we're going to continue to try to push the needle forward and have the best event that we can possibly have.
Well, I want to thank all of our guests who joined us and congratulate them again on winning state championships. And, Jeff, you have a good off-season. I'll talk to you in, when's the Surge?
November.
Do we have an exact date yet?
Not yet, but
okay,
I'll probably see you a week before then.
No, I'll talk to you the day of.
Probably the day of. Okay.
Maybe the day before when I'm helping you do weigh-ins. That's when I'll see you next.
Okay, well, you said it, so, I guess I got to live up to that.
All right, perfect. Can't wait.
Wow.
See you in November.
Wow. It's been a pleasure, Greg. Despite our differences the last week, it's been a pleasure this year.
It's always fun, right, to be able to talk wrestling all season long and bring it to you guys listening in at home. Want to thank all of our guests throughout the entire season and the state champs for joining us today again. For my broadcast partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on the WPIAL.